I published it on CreateSpace. It ended up costing me somewhere around $10,000 to publish this. I had a developmental editor, Denise Schnittman, and I had a final editor, Lourdes Vennard, and they were wonderful. I'm going to use them again. So what I did is I published it, and I set up library talks, author talks. I must have done about 12 of them, including about 3 upstate in the Catskills, where I was very warmly received. Last one I just did was Woodstock, New York.
Can I back up a little? Did you pay $10,000 to CreateSpace? It's to
No,
authors.
it was for my developmental editors,
Okay.
the graphics for my website, the graphics design for my book.
Yeah, you should mention all the things that include, because it sounds like, you know, when you, on the face of it, if people don't understand
I came into this project, I was going to do everything. I didn't care, going to do it right. I wanted this to maybe someday be a movie. It's a really interesting story. I have to say I'm a big sci-fi fan, and I'm very disappointed in the quality of the sci-fi out nowadays, especially the movies. They tend to be just graphics without any kind of a story, no cerebrality.
And very little science.
Very little real science, too. So that's why I wanted to do it. And Brookhaven National Lab has so much real interesting science, and I like to study quantum physics on my own because it's very philosophical. So I did set up the library talks. I did one here in East Hampton, and I did Riverhead. I had a very successful one in Riverhead when I just launched it, and it was very well received, I have to say. I've also advertised the Riverhead local internet news service did a nice story on me. If you go on my website, you can go to that link. I've done several interviews. I actually was interviewed here by Phyllis Italiano one time, about maybe a year ago.
Do you have a Facebook page?
I do have a Facebook page, not specifically for my book, but on mine I also market it. But I am going to have a Facebook page.
You should have one for the book.
Yeah, I am going to do that. Actually, I have one for my music already.
And also look into the services on the internet that link all of your, you know, that will.
By the way, one side angle that I'm going to help market my book is, like I said, I'm a musician also, and I created lots of songs, and I actually created the music for the sci-fi story. So I'm coming out with that album next. In the next several months, I'm going to come out with that album. So, and I'll probably have a separate website for my music too. And,
so you really have a nice package put together.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I do the Facebook page.
It's a good idea. What else have I done? Well, I got a lot of cards. Okay, cards are your cheapest way to advertise, and they're very effective because people always have it there. And it's amazing the amount of support that I've had, a lot on Facebook too. I've had just people that knew me when I was in high school, and now we're all near our 60s, and they contacted me on Facebook, and they go, Izzy, I want to get a copy of your book. Can you send it to me? I go, sure. And so I did that. My wife and I, we like to get coffee at McDonald's, and they're so nice, those girls that work there. And I happen to have a book with me. I say, look at my book. And the nice lady there bought my book, who works there. I mean, it's just amazing.
Sometimes even local McDonald's and 7-Eleven and whatnot, they have a community bulletin board, and you can just put, you know, one of your cards up there, and you never know what's going to happen with that.
So I've advertised a little bit on Riverhead Local. I advertised, had my advertisement up there, and if they clicked on that advertisement, take you right to my book on Amazon. By the way, my book is on Amazon, theinvertedmask.com. The Inverted Mask is the name of the book. So what else have I done? There's, like I said, there's other aspects to it. The Brookhaven National Lab community, actually, after I did during my Citizen Advisory Committee meeting, the director from Brookhaven Lab, Gibbs, Mr. Gibbs, who's just an ordinary fella, very nice person, he asked me to get up and talk about my book to the committee. So I did that. They passed it around. And then I saw it. I sold about 12 copies or so. So they read it. And now I'm getting some reviews from it. And I was very concerned, but they ended up liking it. They realize it's just a fiction book.
Well, but that's something that that needs to be addressed, is that you need to reach out to the communities that you worked in. I mean, and that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
I have another author who's a nurse who wrote a book about the spiritual side of nursing, and she contacted a couple of the nursing organizations, the national ones, and sold a lot of books.
Yeah.
So your scientific community, your alumnus community for you, all of those things, that these are all of the communities you need to reach out to.
There's going to be some setbacks. To anybody writing a book, you're doing this for you, number one. And it's something that you always wanted to do, and it's rewarding to you. That's the most important thing. And there's always going to be some setbacks. I have to say, I went to Cortland State. I graduated with a biology degree at Cortland State, and I was in communication with one professor. I was interested in going back, and it'd be so cool to go back to my school and talk with them. And at first, Dr. Fitzgerald, he's the professor I had, he's still there. Amazing, he taught ecology. And I introduced myself to them, and he emailed me back, and we were going to get it together. And that kind of, I don't think they wanted former students coming back much for whatever. I think that's it.
That's
that would have
really
been a cool thing.
That's really weird.
And because I wrote a book, and former very proud Cortland graduate, but that didn't seem to fly. But overall, it's been a real happy success.
I think it's a matter of what your expectations are for your book. And if your expectations are that you've actually accomplished writing the book, publishing the book, and that people are listening to you talk about it, and that they are actually buying it.
It's a deep, heavy story, I have to tell you.
Yeah,
I've had people.
That's a lot of science.
It's
my background science,
I brought it
too.
down. I brought it down to people because it is so fascinating. The theories in quantum mechanics, physics, holographic reality. That's another thing discussed, that our universe is a projection of information from the future to the past. And that's what they're finding out. And they're finding out that the world that we live in is not really objective as we think it is. It's an approximation of an objective reality, but it's not perfectly well defined reality.
Okay, so we have a few minutes left. What's next?
What's next?
Are you going to write another one?
Absolutely. I'm an ideas dude. That's what I do. And the way I get my ideas is the weirdest thing. It's when I'm riding and I'm perfectly relaxed, or if I'm walking, my wife and I go walking in the pine ground, that's when my ideas come to me. If you sit there like, oh.
You have to relax and let those brain cells collide.
Yeah. So I got ideas for 5 or 6 more books.
Holy cow.
But the one I'm going to go with, I think right now, I'm very much married to this next book. I don't know if I want to give out the name yet, but it's about strange underwater sounds that's got scientists baffled that keep moving around in the oceans. So that's going to be my next one. So I'm not going to say the name of the book, but it got inspired by a real thing that's happening in the world.
There's so much in the way of science that is unexplained, or is a real problem that you can get your teeth into, that science background for books. Well, because my background's science, so my books also have
You taught
history.
forensic science.
And I taught biology, I taught chemistry, I taught environmental science. But all my books have history, mystery, and science.
Yeah.
So the world we live in.
My next marketing, I try to market it any way I can to the scientific community, Brookhaven National Lab community, Riverhead community, all right? I actually mentioned Polish Town in it, all right? And since Dr. Marta Pavlo emigrated from Krakow, I'm going to try and contact the Krakow Library and send them a book and maybe some other physicists.
That'd be fun, and you can write the trip off.
Yeah.
One piece of advice for writers, because we're almost out of time.
Okay. One piece of advice for writers is to develop your story. Make it if you're going to do it right, and do it. Put a lot of effort into the story itself. Otherwise, it may not be worth doing it. And I spent a lot of time on the details, and I have to say, if I write another one, I know a lot of the cool tricks now, which you can do. I'm going to pre-plan the whole thing, not like this one. I had a lot of concepts mapping that I had done, but at times I didn't know exactly where I was going to take it.
So it's research.
Research, get it down, and you might want to develop like a PowerPoint, and then you put down images on the PowerPoint, and then that way you can map it out better.
Izzy, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Linda, for having me. I enjoyed it. It was just fantastic.
Okay.